I'm Elizabeth, a literary princess. If you are new here, welcome. I'm a 6-year PhD candidate in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists. And as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have a currently reading video for you, the first currently reading video of 2025. And I am reading 5 books because why wouldn't I be? Look, there are reasons for this. Mostly that, you know, I'm indecisive and can't stick to one book, but not entirely. Some are for projects and events. Others are ones that I can't like read a lot of straight through. So let's jump in. First up is one that I actually started last night. This is the collected poems of Sylvia Plath, and I am just about 60 pages in. So this has her poems from 1956 to 1963, and then a selection of 50 poems, I think, from pre-1956. So I just finished the 1956 poems, and I'll be starting the 1957 poems today. So I love Sylvia Plath. If you've been hanging around here for a few months, you know I'm in my Plath era, or my second Plath era, since I already had a first Plath era in high school. And I'm obsessed with all things Sylvia Plath at the moment. So I really like the idea of reading all of her poems in chronological order to kind of see how she develops as a poet. These are not my favorite. They're very... I remember in Red Comet, Heather Clark said they're very formal, and even Ted Hughes says in the beginning they're kind of, he introduces it. He's the one that edited the collection. That's her husband, ex-husband. He was a jerk. Anyway, he said that like a lot of the early ones are kind of artificial, and I see where that's coming from. They're not my favorite, but there are a few times when you can kind of see something coming through. And one of those is Pursuit, which appears to have been written in response to a poem by Ted Hughes. Its name I can't remember, but like about a jaguar or something. A big cat or a panther, and this begins, there is a panther stalks me down. One day I'll have my death of him. But the part that I really liked is at the end. So these is the last 2 stanzas. I hurl my heart to halt his pace, to quench his thirst I squander blood. He eats and still his need seeks food, compels a total sacrifice. His voice waylays me, spells a trance. The gutted forest falls to ash. Appalled by secret want, I rush from such assault of radiance. Entering the tower of my fears, I shut my doors on that dark guilt. I bolt the door, each door I bolt. Blood quickens, gonging in my ears. The panther's tread is on the stairs, coming up and up the stairs. So I really liked that one, and like you can kind of see hints of what will be coming later on. So I'm really enjoying this so far, and I can't wait to keep going with it. Next up is one that I'm reading just for fun. It is on my list of 50 books to read in 2025, but I did not actually put it on my January TBR. It turns out that after reading Holly by Stephen King, I was just in the mood to keep going with kind of mystery thrillers. So I picked up The Secret Place by Tana French. This is part of her Dublin Murder Squad series. It is not the 3rd one, which I've read the first 2. This is like the 5th one, I think. Something like that. It has a whole list of them in the front. But I bought this because it is set at an all-girls boarding school, and that's a setting I just adore, so I wanted to read this one. This is following Detective Stephen Moran, who is on Cold Cases. And when Holly Mackey, a girl who was a witness for one of his previous cases, comes in with a kind of card from her school's board called the Secret Place, where they're allowed to hang up all their secrets. And on this card is a picture of a boy who was killed about a year and a half before, and then the words, "I know who killed him." And so Moran brings this to the murder squad, and Antoinette Conway, who is a newer addition to the murder squad, is the one who was working the case. So he and her pair up and are trying to solve it. This is so good. I am like 200 pages in, a little less than halfway, probably like a third. I'm loving this so much. I always forget how much I like Tana French's writing. Like, I'm like, why didn't I pick this up earlier? I've had this for years. It's so, so good. Ugh. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who killed this kid. I don't know who put the card on the board. I'm having a great time trying to figure it out. And I really like the characters of Moran and Conway. They are both very working class Irish from Dublin. And so they feel very out of place at this posh boarding school. And it's just such an interesting dynamic. And I love seeing them become friends, because Conway is very standoffish at first because she has been experiencing sexism within the force. And so she like doesn't really know what Moran is. She's like trying to get a feel on him, but as they're working more and more together, they're becoming friends, and I love it. It is so, so good. And like I said, French's writing is really lovely. Like sometimes the writing in like genre fiction like this isn't so great, but she's just got some beautiful sentences. And she's so good with the voice of different characters. So this is told one part in first person from Moran's point of view, and then also in third person in flashbacks to a year and a half before, following Holly and her friends. And usually I don't like that switch between first and third person, but it's working here. And I like both parts equally well. So I can't wait to see what happens with this. I have a kitty. Say hi. Next up is my first read for the 18th century novel project. This is Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. I was hoping to have this done by today so that I could film my video on it, but alas, it was not. This is a story of Robinson Crusoe who gets shipwrecked on an island for 28 years or something insane. Hold on. The full title of this. The life and strange surprising adventures of Robinson Crusoe of York, mariner, who lived 28 years alone in an uninhabited island on the coast of America near the mouth of the great river Orinoco. Having been cast on shore by shipwreck, wherein all the men perished but himself, with an account how he was at last strangely delivered by pirates, written by himself. What a mouthful. Yes, so this is the account of Robinson Crusoe getting shipwrecked on this island, living there 28 years by himself, and having to be self-sufficient, and building his house, and starting to breed goats that he finds on the island. I actually am enjoying this. It gets slow at parts because it is a guy alone on an island. His man Friday is showing up at some point, but it is not yet, and I have 100 pages left. So hurry up, Friday. But I am enjoying this. I think what's good about it is that it's not just like this account of I built this, and I went here, and I built a raft, and I mean, that is definitely there, but it's also very introspective. So he's dealing with his faith in God and becoming a better person and realizing that he should have listened to his father, who was like, no, don't go to sea. That's just going to bring you terrible things. And it did. So it's very interesting so far. Early 18th century stuff is always kind of hard to read because the novel was still very much developing as a form. There's no chapter breaks. So that's fun. So like being able to stop anywhere is like, where do I stop? You just kind of have to stop in the middle of it. So that's interesting. I am glad that this editor for the Penguin Classics edition did away with some of the weird capitalization practices of the early 18th century. So they capitalized all nouns, and then proper nouns were both capitalized and italicized. So he's kept the italicization, is that how you say that? I don't actually know, of the proper nouns, but he did away with capitalizing all the nouns. He was like, that adds nothing. And I appreciate it, because when I read Roxana by Defoe, the editor of the Oxford edition did not do away with that, and it was obnoxious. So I am enjoying this. It's not going to be a favorite, but it is very interesting, and I'm glad that I'm reading it. Next is one that I am reading on Kindle. This is Mistress and Maid, A Household Story by Dinah Mullet-Craik. This is a Victorian book by an author who I've read 2 books from before, and one I liked and the other I hated. So I wanted to read more by her and see what I actually think of her. So this tells the story of 3 sisters, Joanna, Selina, and Hilary Leaf, who are the orphan daughters of a solicitor. They are very poor because their brother has squandered all the money, because what's a brother in Victorian literature doing if not squandering all the money or like getting arrested for something? And so they have taken to opening a school. And they are hiring a new maid because they are no longer able to keep up with all of the work themselves. And this new maid is Elizabeth Hand. That's where I'm at. I am like not even a full chapter into this book. I'm intrigued so far. The sisters seem to have a really interesting dynamic. One is like still fairly young and could potentially get married. One seems to think herself an invalid, but she does not seem to actually have anything wrong with her. And then the oldest is like fairly old. She's a spinster. So I'm interested to see how the relationships develop between them and also between them and the maid, Elizabeth. But yeah, I don't have much to say about it other than that because I just started it. I really should have waited until I was done with Robinson Crusoe, but I started it on a night when I didn't have enough brain power to deal with Robinson Crusoe. And I actually wanted something on my Kindle, and this was the next book I had up on my Kindle. So I started it and then was like, too many classics at once. But there we are. And next is one that I have on audiobook. This is Gilead by Marilyn Robinson. I am reading this for the Robinson read-along hosted by Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading. And I am only 17% of the way through this. For reasons, which we'll talk about in a moment. It's beautiful. Like, this is beautifully written, which I expected because everybody has said that Robinson is a beautiful writer, but wow. This is told as a letter from a father to his son. The father is a pastor who has been diagnosed with an illness that will kill him. And so he is writing this account to his son of his own life, but also the life of his father before him. And it's just really beautiful. Like, it's really beautifully written. It's very slow and very quiet and introspective, but gorgeous. So I started this on audiobook, realized it's really not a quick enough book for me to read on audiobook. I listen to my audiobooks when I'm in the car mainly. So in the morning on my way to work, and then in the late afternoon, early evening on my way home from work. And at those times of day, I need something to like really amp me up to get through the rest of the day. And Gilead it's not doing that. So I ordered the print copy from my library. It was checked out, so I had to wait. The hold came in. I was going to go get the book. I went, and the library has closed for renovations and is not reopening until the beginning of February. And in the meantime, all holds have been canceled. So, I'm like, really? So I am now waiting to get the audiobook back on Libby because somebody else has checked it out since I returned it. So it's a whole thing, but I am reading this and I am enjoying it. I think it's really, really beautiful. I just need to find the right time of day for me to read it, I think, because it's just not an in-the-car one for me. So it's probably gonna have to be a listen to it while I play with the cats one, which then means that cuts into my booktube watching time, but it's fine. It's fine. I am really enjoying it, and I'm glad I'm participating in the read-along. So that is everything that I am currently reading. Let me know down in the comments below. Have you read any of these? What did you think? What are you reading right now? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.